What is good, everybody? Welcome back to another episode brought to you by the League FFB. Today, we are here for another episode of Let's Talk Dynasty and also a bonus episode of our Dynasty Trade Review show. Over the last week, you guys have flooded that channel with Dynasty trades, so keep those coming. The more trades that we get, the more of these Dynasty trade shows we will do. And so today we wanted to review some Dynasty trades for you. As always, it would not be an episode of Let's Talk Dynasty, though. It wouldn't be an episode of the Dynasty Trade Review show without my co-host MFGDs. So let's get him into the building and let's start reviewing some Dynasty trades. War, how we doing today?
We good, man. We good, man. We fired up, man. Thank you for all the trades you guys sent in. We ready to let's look at them. Let's see what they about.
Dude, I was looking at it because we were kind of coming up with some ideas for other shows, and then I was like, wait a minute, we have so many trades in the trade show that if we wait another week, there's going to be 30, 40, 50 different trades in there. We might as well rip it right now, and I'm not going to waste any time. We got one trade here that I want to talk about. First trade of the day, submitted by A-Rod. We got a 12-team, one quarterback league, so no super flex. It's one QB, full PPR, and no tight end premium. A-Rod says he has no draft capital, so he tiers down from Garrett Wilson to Rashee Rice, and he gets the 201 thrown into this deal. How do you feel about this?
I like the Garrett Wilson side. I wish I could get that deal done in some of the leagues I'm in.
The tier up?
Rice, sorry.
I said you wish you could get the tier up?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
Because I don't want to say Rice is an unknown because he was balling out like before he got injured. But in this deal, I would have liked to have seen instead of 201, maybe a late first. Instead, I know we said that it's kind of no real big difference between 1-8, like 2-3 or something like that. But it's still better to have that first round draft capital if you're going to be trading a top end receiver like Garrett Wilson.
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, I don't mind a tier down. I think part of what his argument was in the context of the submission is he feels like Garrett Wilson's quarterback situation right now is just so unknown with Aaron Rodgers being moved on from and kind of hasn't had stability at QB his entire career, where Rashee Rice, we know, he's playing with Patrick Mahomes, a future gold jacket type of guy for probably as long as he's in Kansas City. I'd imagine that the Chiefs decide to move on from Rashee before they ever even move on from Mahomes. So I think that's part of his argument. I don't mind the 201, being the piece that you get. When you're looking for a tier down, this feels somewhat fair. I think if both of these guys were healthy and we saw the healthy season from both Rashee Rice and Garrett Wilson, people might be giving you the argument that they're in the same tier. So I don't mind the tier down, especially if all you were trying to do and all you were trying to accomplish was get some extra draft capital. In a 1 QB league, you lose just a little bit of value as you get deeper into those drafts because guys like Cam Ward and Shador, they just aren't first round picks. I mean, we don't love them in Superflex right now, and in 1 QB, those guys, they're just not that valuable. So you lose a little bit of that value, especially in the no tight end premium too, because I think of like the strengths of this class where you have Tyler Warren and Colston Loveland and some of those guys. Yeah, you're kind of just looking to get like a depth running back here, but I don't mind it. I don't think it's a bad move either way, but at the end of the day, Garrett's the best player in the deal, but this feels like a fine tear down if that's what you were looking for.
Yeah, I can't argue too much with what you're saying. You do bring up a good point that if both were healthy, they probably are having a similar season. It could quite possibly be in the same tier. It's just that Garrett Wilson, to me, he's proven that he could play good with bad quarterback play. So I mean, he's kind of, if not quarterback proof, close to quarterback proof.
Yeah.
But I guess it's a fine trade. It's not too bad. I would just prefer the Wilson side.
Fair enough. All right, let's move on to the next one. The next trade that I have here is going to be another tier down move. You got a 12-team Superflex, full PPR, tight end premium, and start 10. You're trading Jayden Daniels, tearing down to Kyler Murray and 2 first-round picks. The first-round picks are going to be the 106 and the 107. How do you feel about this type of tier down?
I don't like this type of tier down. I'm sorry, maybe I'm the anti-tier down guy today. This one is even worse than the other one, if you ask me. There's no discernible difference between 106 and 107 this draft. This is essentially a two-player draft. I'm not saying that everybody outside of those 2 players is going to be trash or anything like that, but I think it's just an obvious step down after you get away from the first 2 guys. And now we're talking about 106 and 107. Yes, Kyler is probably a bit of an underrated quarterback at the quarterback position fantasy, but we're talking about Jayden Daniels here. The only way I would make this deal is if I think that Jayden Daniels' first year is somewhat of a fluke and he's going to have like a little bit of a sophomore slump a la CJ Stroud. So, I mean, I'm definitely just not looking to move Jayden Daniels at all right now, especially if I'm not getting a guy back like Kyler in addition to maybe a higher first inside of the top two and then maybe another late first or a 26 first something. But this just doesn't feel like enough compensation to me.
Yeah, I mean, I think I like the idea. The thought of it of tearing down from Jayden Daniels. They said they wanted to sell high. I don't necessarily think that Jayden Daniels is a player that you're selling high on. I think he's a solidified asset already. You talk about top 5 dynasty assets probably in dynasty fantasy football right now. Jayden Daniels' name is probably in that conversation. I'd have to imagine behind Josh Allen and probably Lamar Jackson right now at QB. Jayden's probably the next name up. Yeah, and I mean, I traded for Jayden Daniels in one of my leagues, and I actually tiered up. And I had to give Jalen Hurts and a late first this year to go get Jayden Daniels. Now I got a second round pick back thrown into the deal, but at the end of the day, like I had to give a top asset better than Kyler Murray. Now, obviously, the first round picks, it's nice, it's the right idea, but I'm with you, man, and I think we got a little bit of pushback on one of our last episodes when we were talking about this draft and kind of saying that it feels like once you get to the middle, like that 105, 106, 107, 108, those just don't feel as good as they have in years past if you're actually having those on your as like assets on your roster. And some people were giving us some pushback. I've had some people give me pushback saying that this year's draft class is as good as last year's. I definitely do not believe that. There's just, it doesn't feel like this is enough compensation. I think again, this is similar to what you're saying. Right idea, wrong amount of value back in the deal, which just I'm gonna go with the Jayden Daniels side. He's the safest player in the deal. I think he has the highest upside in the deal. The Washington Commanders, I'm doing these free agency videos right now. They have a buttload of cap space right now. They could go get a Chris Godwin in free agency or a T. Higgins if he hits the open market or a Stephon Diggs or Keenan Allen. They could get any of these guys. Like they have the money to do that. And you give him more weapons. Yeah, I don't even think we've seen the ceiling of Jayden Daniels yet.
I agree.
So, all right, let's move on to the next trade. The next trade that I have here is another tier down. We're tearing down in all of these trades so far. So this is a 12-team super flex, full PPR, tight end premium, and start 9. Team number 1, they said that they have Jayden Daniels on the roster already. So he felt comfortable moving away from Josh Allen because he already has Jayden Daniels. So he moves Josh Allen. He gets Justin Herbert, Marvin Harrison Jr., and TJ Hawkinson in this deal. I know you said you've been anti-tier down today. Do you still remain the same right here with Josh Allen?
Yeah, I still remain the same right here with Josh Allen. I'm not trading him. I'm not doing this deal. No, man. Like even Marvin Harrison Jr. isn't enough to like make me change my mind on that. Like Josh Allen, like I'm trying to figure out what goes through the thought. I mean, I guess I do know what goes through the thought process of trading somebody like Jamar Allen, JJ Chase, Jayden Daniels. I guess you're trying to get more depth, but the thing is, man, you just don't trade that guy. You just don't trade that guy. TJ, we like TJ. He's not enough. Justin Herbert, we like Justin Herbert. He's not enough. Marvin Harrison Jr., we like him. He's not enough. Honestly, to get a deal of this magnitude done, I'm going to either need TJ Hawkinson to be Brock Bowers or Marvin Harrison Jr. to be JJ or Chase. That will make this deal make sense to me. I'm not trading Josh Allen under any circumstances whatsoever.
Yeah, I mean, I don't disagree where if I have Josh Allen, I'm just not moving him. But at the end of the day, too, the value here feels close to probably what you should expect. I think it's a lot of projection because Marvin Harrison, as much as we like Marvin Harrison, we've been talking about Marvin Harrison and we still believe in him. We haven't seen him be elite at the NFL level. So you are hoping that he takes that jump forward, whereas Josh Allen, to me, is the best fantasy football asset you can have, bar none. Positions, all positions included, everything. Josh Allen is the guy for fantasy football, in my opinion, at the moment. If I'm in a startup and I'm taking the 101, it's Josh Allen. And so, yeah, I kind of feel the same way, but for some reason, when I'm looking at this deal, and maybe it's because I like all of these players, I feel like it's close. And so I don't mind it if you have Jayden Daniels. I'd be interested to hear who, the other quarterback is on the roster. I mean, I guess it's going to be Herbert, Jayden Daniels, then they'll have Marvin Harrison. There's a sense where, based on the roster construction and the players you currently have, where this makes sense for you. But yeah, I typically if I have Josh Allen, I'm not really trying to trade him.
I think looking at this deal even further, I think that the only way you really pull the trigger on this trade is if you think that Marvin Harrison Jr. could become JJ or Chase. That's the only way I could really think of it. And then you're just accepting that, and TJ Hawkinson just had a down year because he was coming off an injury. That's the only way I could really look at this type of deal and like feel good about trading away Josh Allen for these assets.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I think it's close, but I don't know if I would pull the trigger personally if I have Josh Allen. Here's another trade here. This might be just the rookie pick type of trade, but you have a 12-team super flex, full PPR, half-point tight end premium. He said he got Lamar before this deal, so then he moved Trevor Lawrence because he added Lamar Jackson. Didn't need Trevor anymore. So he sends Trevor and Amari Cooper for a 26 first, 26 second, 2025 209, 26 third, and a 27 third. So basically a first, 2 seconds, and 2/3 to get rid of Amari Cooper and Trevor Lawrence. How you feel?
I mean, I'm fine with this deal, man. If the cupboard is bare as far as picks, you just got Lamar. Amari Cooper, to me, he's just like damn near just like a non-factor in this deal. Really, it's just Trevor Lawrence and a bunch of picks for me. And even though I'm not super excited about the picks, he does get the 26 first in there. So that's the first round pick. He gets a second. He gets a second this year's draft, and he gets a 27 pick, which is like way out there. But yeah, man, I like this deal for the pick side. I know you're still in team Trevor Lawrence. You're still in Trevor Lawrence's camp, but I'm not. So this deal is fine to me.
I just think Trevor Lawrence to me is closer to a high-end quarterback 2 than he is a low-end quarterback 2. And I feel like this is like the type of compensation where if I was trading like a mid-range to a low-end QB2, I'd kind of have competition like, or a compensation like this in a 12-team league. I think you could have got, this type of value for a guy like Russell Wilson, early in his starting days for the Steelers. I think you could have got this type of compensation for a guy like Matthew Stafford, who's towards the end of his career right now. Trevor Lawrence, to me, he has more value than that. I understand, you don't have the need for Trevor on the roster anymore because you got Lamar, and that's great because Lamar is going to give you that Konami code, that big game ability at your quarterback position, and so Trevor Lawrence is something that I don't need. But I think you probably get more bang for your buck if you maybe just go to like a QB needy team and say, hey, look, I don't even need the draft picks. Give me Garrett Wilson for my Trevor Lawrence. That's probably fair. Give me, one we saw earlier, give me Rashee Rice in a second round pick for my Trevor Lawrence. Like, people are probably willing to give you a wide receiver for that, and you get to keep Amari Cooper, which he's a non-factor for me in this deal for the most part. He is a free agent, so I think he has a little bit of sneaky upside if he lands in somewhere decent as a free agent. But this isn't enough for me for Trevor Lawrence. When it comes to 12-team super flex leagues and getting rid of QBs, like, that position is so scarce anyways. I just think you should be able to demand like 2 firsts when it comes to Trevor Lawrence in a 12-team super flex, especially when we're talking like 26 and 2027 picks being thrown into the deal. That just makes the most sense to me.
I don't know, man. I don't think nobody's checking for Trevor like that. I don't think they check for Trevor like that. I don't really think in any of the leagues we're in that anybody is giving up Garrett Wilson for Trevor Lawrence, or Rashee Rice in the second for Trevor Lawrence, 2 firsts for Trevor Lawrence. I think a lot of people have left Trevor Lawrence for dead, and especially coming off the injury. He was already a questionable asset going into last season. Then this season he gets injured after like playing like trash. I just don't think that enough people are high on Trevor. You said that this is the type of compensation that early season Russell Wilson would probably have gotten. I think that I could make the argument that early season Trevor Lawrence and early season Russell Wilson were in the same damn boat. If
Yeah,
not
except
Trevor.
one's a decade younger.
Yeah, I understand, but you know how fantasy is. Once the hive mind writes a guy off, it's hard to come back until they do something. You know what I mean? I just don't see a lot of people giving up a ton of assets for Trevor Lawrence at this point in time. I do think he has an opportunity to bounce back. Like, if you want to, you can't really say this is a buy low either because you said that he's not getting enough compensation for him. I don't know, man. I just don't think people are going to pay a ton for Trevor.
Yeah, I mean, if that's the case, dude, I'm buying low on Trevor where I can. If people are feeling burnt and done with it, because like I said, I think he's a fine quarterback too. I think that there's potential for improvement with Liam Cohen. year 2 Brian Thomas Jr., healthy Evan Engram and Christian Kirk and Trevor what's his name, Travis Etienne, not Trevor, his little brother. I just was looking at a mock draft where they put Trevor Etienne in Jacksonville with Travis, which would be ridiculous. But that said, I just think that there's potential to buy low here, man. And I don't know. I'm taking the T-Law side here. I'm taking the T-Law side in a super flex. I think you could have got something that benefits your team more than some thirds and some seconds in a year and 2 years down the road.
We'll see, man. Like, okay, man, let's have it. Let's have it. It's time to do the game.
All right.
We need to figure out where the hell Trevor Lawrence is at. It's this time.
You need me to pull up the list?
Yeah, man, let's pull up that list.
All right, here we go. Going to quarterbacks. Right now, looking at keep trade cut, Trevor Lawrence is currently the quarterback 16. Quarterbacks above him, T-Law or Baker Mayfield?
Baker.
T-Law or Brock Purdy?
Purdy.
T-Law or Kyler Murray?
Kyler.
Jordan Love?
Jordan Love, regretfully.
Bo Nix?
Yeah, Bo Nix.
Then you have a bunch of guys you're probably guaranteed to take, just knowing you. It's Stroud, Caleb Williams, May, Herbert.
Yeah.
Guys below Trevor Lawrence then. So right now you're not moving him up the rankings, but you maybe move him down. T-Law or Michael Penix?
I'm cautiously taking Penix.
McCarthy or Trevor Lawrence?
That was tough, man. I'm personally taking McCarthy because of Kevin O'Connell, but I can understand someone like not wanting to do that.
Cam Ward, Trevor Lawrence?
Trevor Lawrence.
Bryce Young or Trevor Lawrence?
Trevor Lawrence.
Jared Goff, Trevor Lawrence?
Because Ben Johnson left. Trevor Lawrence.
So you think he's QB 18? Because you would take McCarthy and Penix over him, is what you said. But
if he's QB 18 and all those guys are there, where the hell is Tua?
QB 24.
Jesus Christ, that's another conversation for another day.
So you think that guy's a buy? But yeah, I don't know, man. I just think this isn't the move that I'm making, and I'm assuming this is also my assumption because he said that he has lost in the championship twice or something like that. And that's why he traded for Lamar, because his quarterback play was bad. But if you're back-to-back championships, draft picks don't help you unless your plan is to go out there now and take these draft picks and say, hey, I'm going to buy this player off of your team for my draft pick. I'm going to buy that player off your team for my draft pick. So I think the move now that you've done this, it's not necessarily a bad move. I don't think it's a bad move. I just prefer Trevor Lawrence. I think you could probably have done a little bit more moving just Trevor for a single player. But you can take these picks now and you can move them for players, which I think will help you better than actually just keeping these picks. So let's move on to the next one. We don't need to beat that one to death. Let's go to this 12-team, one quarterback, full PPR, no tight end premium. Jordan Addison, Brian Thomas Jr., and the 401 for K. Dotton, George Pickens, Jaxon, Smith-Njigba, and the 109. How do you feel about that?
Let me break this down. Let me compartmentalize this deal in itself. I'll tell you right now, without me even thinking too deep into it, Jordan Addison is like one of the most underrated, unappreciated fantasy assets. Like, people act like he's crap and he's not worth anything. Like, but I'm gonna
think about this. What on that right side of the deal needs to be combined to equal Brian Thomas Jr.?
JSN and the first.
That equals BTJ?
Yeah.
So then to you would cross those guys out. That leaves you with Jordan Addison in the 401 for George Pickens and K. Dotton.
Yeah, I mean, the right side won, in my opinion. The right side won. I just wanted to give Jordan Addison his flowers. But
interesting.
Yeah, I think the right side won. I think, okay, let's be honest here. I don't think JSN and BTJ are like too far away from each other's skills. Like, to be honest, like, I'm not gonna say that I could see BTJ for JSN straight up, but like, I just think they're closer to the same tier or in the same tier. So I mean, really, even if you were like BTJ for JSN and K. Dotton, I wouldn't like crap on the deal. I'll say the BTJ side won, but I wouldn't like crap on the deal. So really, like, because those two assets are close and those are the key assets on both sides, we're really talking about like maybe 109 George Pickens and K. Dotton for Jordan Addison in a fourth. And I'm just on the right side on that one.
Fair enough. I think, to me, Brian Thomas for JSN in the 109 is kind of the way that I would have looked at it too. And I probably would prefer BTJ there. And then even if I cut it to like BTJ for JSN and George Pickens, I still think I lean BTJ there. Now, I think if you're receiving the 2-for-1 there, I think that helps you if you're trying to tier down and gain some more depth. But I just want to be tearing up into Brian Thomas Jr. right here. And then either way that I cut it, 109 and Cade Otton for Jordan Addison in the 401, or George Pickens and Cade Otton for Jordan Addison in the 401. I prefer Jordan Addison there. I think he's more valuable, and probably better from a fantasy points per game perspective. Even in full PPR leagues, dude, like as much as people like George Pickens, he's floated around like 11 to 12 fantasy points per game for the majority of his career there. And I know that he hasn't necessarily had great quarterback play. He's went through, Kenny Pickett to, Mason Rudolph to Justin Fields to Russell Wilson. Unless they go get like one of the top free agents this year, which even then, like getting one of the top free agents would be like Sam Darnold. I don't even know how much that really improves for George Pickens. So I'm just going to take the BTJ and the Jordan Addison side. I think that side has more upside, and you get the better players, closer to blue chip players. And I think that those players are just more valuable for you long term. So I'm taking that BTJ and the Jordan Addison side. And I'm also accounting for the fact that it's one quarterback. So at 109, your value of player is a little bit less just because Shador and Cam are not going to be going ahead of that. So now you're looking at 9 wide receivers or running backs coming off the board first.
Yeah, man, I hear you. Like this deal's probably closer than I would think. I guess it's just the flood of assets, and it's just that I'm really high on JSN too. So, but I understand where you're coming from as well.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's a bad. Obviously, I'd like to have JSN on my team. I got rid of him a little bit early on one of my teams, so I wish I didn't do that. But let's move on to this next one. Talk about JSN's teammate. We got 10 teams, Superflex, full PPR, tight end premium. TK says they needed running back help, so because of that, they traded for Kenneth Walker and the 307. They traded away the 104 and Cortland Sutton. So how do you feel really about this deal, being the 104 for Kenneth Walker and the extra stuff around? I hate to throw Cortland Sutton in there as like extra stuff, but he feels like he's not necessarily the main part of this deal.
Man, I think this is a bad deal. This is a bad deal. This is a bad deal. You need running back. Okay, let me get this straight. You need running back help. And then you trade a running back that is good while healthy, but it's often not healthy. And you trade him away for 104. You trade him away for 104. You trade 104 away for him, where you could have drafted a running back at 104, and you just threw in Cortland Sutton. That's fluff. Like,
That's what I get at when I'm looking at this. When it comes to the 104, I just feel like you draft a Kenneth Walker level type of running back in either Amarion Hampton or Trevion Henderson or whoever it may be, at 104, Caleb Johnson if he gets a good landing spot, Quinshon Judkins if he gets a good landing spot. I mean, hell, I saw a mock draft today. Daniel Jeremiah recently did a mock draft. I'm going to make a video on this mock draft actually. But they had 3 running backs go in the first round. It was Jeanty, Hampton, and Henderson all went in the first round. And if you get first round draft capital for those 3 running backs, those are all top 5 picks in Superflex rookie mocks, in my opinion. Henderson went to the Vikings, which is funny because I told you that he just reminds me of Aaron Jones. So it's like them just getting Aaron Jones again, just younger. And then Hampton went to the Los Angeles Chargers, which would be a smash landing spot for Hampton to be running the football for Jim Harbaugh. But I just think here you get your running back of Kenneth Walker's level at 104, and I think you gave away Cortland Sutton for no reason. It just feels like that was just like it got the deal done for the other guy. Maybe, if anything, I think it should have been like 104 for Kenneth Walker, plus you probably should have got something with Kenneth Walker just for the pick straight across. It's not horrible, but you could have found your Kenneth Walker level type of running back help in this year's draft class at the 104 and kept Cortland Sutton on the roster.
Yeah, I'm also looking for more durable running backs than Kenneth Walker. I just am.
Yeah, I mean,
if it was Kenneth Walker, and maybe if the other person had Kenneth Walker and Zach Charbonnet, it'll like be a little bit.
You secure
better.
the handcuff.
Yeah, but yeah, like I need both of those guys on my team if I want to buy that backfield.
I also think too, dude, like it's with wanting durability, it's guys are injury prone until they're not, or guys are injury, prone. I put prone in quotations until they're not, because like Saquon Barkley, remember there's a period there where everyone was like, he's injury prone, he's not good, blah 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 blah, and then he goes out and does 2,000 yards, the 9th player ever to do that. And I think that happens all the time. People were saying Christian McCaffrey was injury prone until he got to San Francisco, and then he ripped off RB1 season after RB1 season, and now he's hurt again, which I guess fails to hurt the point or to help the point. But at the end of the day, like these are running backs, they're all going to be hurt. But if I'm going to be trading for a young running back to help me, I'm just going to draft the young young running back who's going to be a little bit younger than Kenneth Walker and doesn't have injury history at the NFL level and could be in a better landing spot. Because I'm telling you, if Hampton goes to the Chargers like that, Hampton would be over Kenneth Walker in my dynasty rankings right now.
Also heard that Hampton has met with the Bears twice already. So if he does slide out the first round, he could possibly be a target for the Bears. Him and Caleb Johnson are targets for the Bears in that second round. They have 2 early second round picks. So
Yeah, I even
and
saw
they're looking
too.
for their David Montgomery. They're looking for their David Montgomery to
Yeah.
pair with Swift, I guess.
I saw Hampton too get mocked to the Steelers to replace Najee Harris, who leaves in free agency. So like you could have Hampton go to a bunch of places where he could be an RB1 almost immediately, because he has all the abilities to be a pass catcher at this level. Run between the tackles, do all of those things. So yeah, I think long story short with this one, I just prefer the 104 and the Sutton side. I think you could have gotten an equal talent to Kenneth Walker with that 104 at the running back position, specifically in this draft, and maybe even traded that 104 as we saw the combine and as we saw, draft capital and some of this stuff. You might even have gotten a better running back than Kenneth Walker potentially, and or at least didn't have to give up Cortland Sutton if you truly did believe in him, in Kenneth Walker, that is. So yeah, give me the 104 in the Sutton side. All right, I'm gonna move on to the next one here.
Oh, wait, oh, you were I'm supposed to make another point.
We're gonna move on to the next one here. I left it open in case you wanted to leave anything, and then you just stared at me. So we're gonna move on to the next trade here. It's a 10-team, a super flex, a half PPR, tight end premium, start 11. Team number 1 said that they have Tua and Baker on the roster, so they traded away Patrick Mahomes for the 101, a 27 first, and Kirk Cousins. War, this is another tear down. We're tear downing in every video or in every trade so far today for the most part. You tearing down off of Patrick Mahomes.
Okay. I'm trying to grasp this again. Explain his scenario to me one more time. I'm just trying to get it.
He
He
has
has
Tua and Baker at QB, and he had Mahomes. So he moved Mahomes for Kirk Cousins, the 101 and the 27 first, leaving him now with his quarterbacks on his roster as Tua, Baker, and Kirk Cousins.
I mean, I think it's safe to. Well, I don't even know if it's safe to assume because this is a team super. Okay, this is a super flex.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't know if I would do that, man. Okay, first and foremost, if I'm the person, okay, if he has Baker and Tua, if I have 102 in his league, I'm like, okay, yes, this guy is probably taking Cam Ward's Shedeur Sanders because he has to do that, right? You can't possibly think that going into a season with Baker and Tua as your quarterbacks after trading Patrick Mahomes is the right thing to do and not take one of the 2 quarterbacks at 1-on-1.
I don't understand how you do that move without taking Jeanty. Like I feel like if you're swinging for the fence, you have to swing for the fence. You're trading Mahomes, and I understand like the argument is that there was times probably last year where he felt like he wanted to play Baker into a over Mahomes some weeks because Mahomes wasn't having a great fantasy football season. And I understand that being the feeling that you had at times on the roster, but Mahomes is still a cornerstone type of player in Dynasty. There's very few quarterbacks that have the safety of Patrick Mahomes. A lot of the feelings that I hear when people talk about Mahomes is that they know that they have a quarterback 1 or a quarterback 2, high-end quarterback 2 on their roster for a decade. Mahomes isn't going anywhere. He's going to be a gold jacket guy. He's not going to lose his job. He's always going to have, enough people around him. I mean, this upcoming year, he's going to have Rashee Rice, Travis Kelce back, and Xavier Worthy. There's going to be guys there. That's more than he had last year. Throughout periods of time. I'm just not doing it. In a super flex, I get it. It's 10 team. You move off for the 101 and the 27 first and Kirk Cousins, who maybe Kirk Cousins gets another starting job. Maybe. But it sounds like Atlanta is more than fine letting him sit as backup QB2 to Michael Penix. And if he is QB2 to Michael Penix, he's closer to a roster clogger on your line in your lineup than he is anything else. And so it's really Mahomes for Jeanty and the 27 first, which I need more than that if I'm moving Mahomes.
I do too, and the only way this deal will be good for Team 1 is if after 27 he somehow ends up with Jeanty from this draft than Arch Manning or some shit in
Yeah, I
27.
mean,
It'll
maybe
be so big hypothetical.
it's a crazy bet, and maybe the bet is that Kirk Cousins. I don't mind buying low on Kirk Cousins. This isn't buying low, by the way. You're giving up Patrick Mahomes. But I think the one thing that I just don't necessarily understand for the most part is that we're throwing in Tua and Baker as like this is the reason why I made this deal, but like
Yeah.
Tua and Baker don't necessarily make me feel good about your
My
quarterback
future.
room. Like it doesn't feel like you had the luxury of moving off of a guaranteed starting asset like Mahomes. Because let's be honest, War, if Baker Mayfield takes a step back next year, are you surprised?
No.
If Tua gets a concussion next year and it's over, are you surprised?
No.
So if those two things happen, which I would say in range of outcomes they're not unlikely to happen. So if those two things happen, your quarterback room now is like Baker and Kirk Cousins, and Baker has regressed a little bit, and Kirk Cousins is a backup quarterback for Michael Penix. You're gonna wish you had Mahomes on that roster. You're gonna wish you had him. And I just think when it comes to 101s, as much as I like, Jeanty, I feel much different if this 101 is last year's 101 and I can take Jayden Daniels or I can take Caleb Williams. That makes me feel way better about this deal
Yeah.
if it's last year's 101. This year, because you don't have the quarterback in Superflex, and I know it's 10 teams, so the quarterback is a little bit more, a little bit less valuable because it's 10 team. Still doesn't matter to me. The running back production that you can get from Jeanty is somewhat replaceable. In fact, if you wanted to trade for the running back, I would argue you could trade for guys like Achane and Brees Hall and Bucky Irving and XYZ, and they can give you, RB1 numbers, and you get to keep Mahomes at the QB position. So, yeah, man, I'm not really excited about this deal, especially just knowing that it's Tua and Baker that you're going to have to rely on for the majority of your dynasty here unless you go trade for other quarterbacks.
I agree, man. I agree. This is yeah, I wouldn't have made this move here, man. No.
So, all right, let's move on to the next one. I'm going to go, our good friend Trevor Lawrence. 12 teams, super flex, half PPR, half point tight end premium. They said they needed wide receiver help. So they down tier from Bo Nix to Trevor Lawrence, and they upgraded from Rashee Shaheed in the 305 to Jordan Addison in the 301. So is that type of down tier, again, today's theme, down tier, down tier, down tier, are you down tiering from Bo Nix to upgrade from Shaheed to Jordan Addison?
I mean, I take the Trevor Lawrence. Oh, look. I know I said I would take Bo Nix over Trevor Lawrence, and I would. But the gap between Jordan Addison and Rashee Shaheed is so large that, like, it makes it either a good deal or a deal leaning towards the Trevor Lawrence side. That's just where I'm at. Okay, let's pump our brakes here a little bit on Bo Nix. I like Bo Nix, but let's not act like he's actually Drew Brees. Like, I get he's playing for Sean Payton. He's not actually Drew Brees. Like, so let's pump the brakes here. You're down tearing from Bo Nix. Down tearing from Bo Nix. Does that even sound like a term that makes sense to you? I'm down tearing from Bo Nix. Who the hell is Bo Nix?
I mean, Bo Nix was a fantasy football producer this year,
He
so
was.
you know,
He was, but he's not like when you say you're down tearing from somebody, I'm thinking we're talking like, the heavy hitters, the heavy hitting quarterbacks, like you
Burrow.
down tier from the middle to the middle. Bo Nix and Trevor Lawrence are in the same tier. It's just a matter of preference. Like, do I want Trevor Lawrence, who's like, I don't even know if he's older because Bo Nix is old. It's like,
It's actually a good question.
like, do you want Trevor Lawrence or do you want? They're in the same tier, so I feel like you're pretty much just in Rashee. I don't know, dude.
They're both 25 years old. They're both
Yes,
25.
I can't co-sign this one, man. Yeah, dude. I'm leaning the
Yeah, I
Jordan
mean,
Addison side.
look, I'm gonna make it short and sweet here. I prefer Bo Nix to Trevor Lawrence, but they're close enough that the down tier to upgrade from Rashid Shaheed to Jordan Addison is massive. You also snuck in the fact that you move up 4 spots in the 3rd round. That felt very unnecessary, but you still moved up. So like that's even a bonus on top of it. It is what it is. Yeah, this is pretty easy for me, man. I'm gonna take T-Law and Jordan Addison, and I'll easily give up my Bo Nix and Shaheed to do that.
Yeah,
There's no guarantee
yeah.
that Shaheed even is as much as he looked good at the beginning part of the year last year, there's no guarantee that he's even like the wide receiver 2 on this Saints roster long term.
They're about to tear that team down. We said in another video.
They
Team getting
could
torn down.
tear it down and they could keep him on the roster, but at the same time, I've seen, the Saints be a team that's rumored to go get another pass catcher like Tyler Warren or Luther Burden or Emeka Egbuka. And if they go get another one of those guys, I think they're more talented than Shaheed, and it would bump him down the pecking order where he was already kind of a big play touchdown dependent option anyways last year when he was playing games for them. And if you have Chris Olave and Egbuka, or Chris Olave and Tyler Warren, and then Shaheed is just a big play outside threat for long play touchdowns, that's super inconsistent. And I'd rather have Jordan Addison be a guy that, one, sees some volume, is a big play touchdown guy, and is in a better passing offense that scores more and has better quarterback play and a better coach and all this other stuff considered. Just give me T-Law and Jordan Addison. We don't need to talk too much more about it.
Hold on. I ain't letting them off the hook that easy because this guy, he fell up. Like he
What you mean?
failed up. He his attempt to down tier from Bo Nix, he won the trade. He actually like got a better deal out of it. So but this is my whole point. Here's my whole point. I briefly touch on it to go back to what we talked about earlier in the video. This is an exact example of what I mean. Team one believed that he was down tiering from Bo Nix to Trevor Lawrence. Like, that tells you the value. Like, he thinks that Trevor Lawrence is mid. That's basically what he said. Like, man, I'm giving up Bo Nix to get Trevor Lawrence. Like, you get what I'm saying? It's just a mindset. Like, people just not in on Trevor Lawrence like that right now.
Yeah, I hear you. And again, I'm just going to emphasize maybe that is why I'm looking at Trevor Lawrence now as a buy low. If you can do this where you have like those QB 12 to 15 range, QB 10 to 15 range of QB, and you do believe, again, you have to have some type of belief in Trevor Lawrence as a player, and you have to have some type of belief in Liam Cohen as a play caller and that offense around him. But if you feel like you can tear down and get the significant upgrade like Jordan Addison is, I'm doing that all the time. Like, just some of these other players, bro, like we just talked about them a little bit ago, but let's just say you could do a similar move like this, and instead of Bo Nix, it's Baker, or instead of Bo Nix, it's Brock Purdy, or instead of Bo Nix, it's Kyler Murray. You probably can do this and get the significant upgrade, and I think that there's an argument that getting the upgrade to downgrade to Trevor Lawrence is probably worth it in most of those scenarios. I'm a little bit higher on Kyler Murray, so I probably wouldn't do it with my Kyler Murray, but it's making me think right now. I have a league where I have Brock Purdy at QB. I'm about to go try and tear down my Brock Purdy to Trevor Lawrence and see if I can get an upgrade somewhere.
Look, man, you're talking to the guy that traded Trevor Lawrence for Jayden Reed. So, I mean, I'm probably the worst person.
Oh, right. All right. I'm moving on to the next trade. 12 team super flex, half PPR, tight end premium. Our guy Pally, he says he has JSN and Neighbors, so he traded away Marvin Harrison Jr. in the 204, and he got Rashee Rice in the 104. So he moved up one round to down tier from Marvin to Rashee Rice, already having JSN and Neighbors on the roster. How do you feel?
I don't personally like the deal, but the deal's probably fine. It's probably the most even trade we had today, in my opinion. Rashee, do I like Rashee Rice? Marvin Harrison more than Rashee Rice? Yes. But you're getting a top 4 pick in the draft. And you're giving up a second. I would like it even more if I didn't have to give up a second round pick and I was able to trade Marvin Harrison Jr. for Rice and 104, but it depends on how you view these players and where you have them ranked.
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, I'll take the Rice in the 104 side. Too. I think there's more value on that side. I think the gap between the two players that you'll get at those draft picks and the gap between Marvin Harrison and Rashee Rice, it's just smaller than the gap between those two rookies that you'll draft. So I actually made a similar trade in one of my leagues earlier this offseason. I've talked about it before on this channel. I don't know if maybe that was inspiration, maybe not. Maybe I'm giving myself credit there. But I traded my Rashee Rice and the 110, I think it was the 110 in this year's draft class, for Marvin Harrison and a 2026 2026 first round pick. So I moved back a year, but I stayed in the first round. And I upgraded my Rice to Marvin Harrison. Now, there was people in the comments that said, that's not an upgrade. You downgraded from Rashee Rice to Marvin Harrison. There were people that did not like the deal. So that tells me enough that these guys should be considered close enough in rankings, Rashee and Marvin, that people, if you can get this upgrade, that's a whole round, I'm definitely okay with doing that. And I think it's a coin flip. My specific deal where I felt like I was just moving a late first for a first next year in what I would project is probably a little bit of a better class, just because I think the quarterbacks are better in that class, and that's what I care about a little bit more. Yeah, that's where I'm at. I think Rashee and the 104 is the side that I'm taking here, but I could hear an argument either way. How large of a gap? I just want to ask this question to you. How large of a gap do you think there is between Rashee and Marvin Harrison? Is it A tier, 2 tiers? How far is your gap?
That's crazy because I was gonna follow up with you with a question.
You can
The
hit me
gap
with a
between
question too.
yeah. The gap between Marv. See, that's the thing. Rashee Rice is a question mark for me because they drafted a receiver, but he was balling. Rashee Rice is balling. I think so. If we're going by the Rashee Rice that we seen before he got injured, then I have to say that they're in a similar tier at this point in time. I don't have them being too far away from each other. Rashee Rice is 24 years old. He's a couple years older than Marv, but he's producing more. So I mean, they're both young. Rashee Rice, the 3 games he played before he got injured, 17 points, 20 points, 29. Like, he was going off. So
Yeah.
I can't really. They're in a similar tier, man.
Yeah, I agree. I just looked at my I just referenced my rankings. I updated these recently on the channel, but I have Marvin Harrison as my my wide receiver 12 in my rankings right now, and I have Rashee as my wide receiver 16. Now there's a tier break between them, but I only have them, a couple spots apart. Four wide receivers apart, I think, is the official number there. So yeah, they're close enough that to me, getting a whole round going up into that 104 spot where we said you could land, an Amarion Hampton, a Trevion Henderson, a Cam Ward, whatever it may be here that you like, that's a good enough piece to down tier. I guess to down tier from Marvin to Rashee Rice. So yeah, this is definitely one of the ones where it makes sense for me. I think if the picks were different, you could argue it goes the other way, but there's enough pick value here. That's what I want to emphasize. There's enough pick value here that I'll take the right side.
Yeah, man, I can't knock it. Yeah, the 104 makes all the difference in this deal.
So you said you had a question though. What is the question for me?
Yeah. What do you think? So based on Rashee Rice, so based on these factors, Xavier Worthy, Rashee Rice returning from injury, what do you think Rashee Rice is going to do next season, and what tier do you think he's going to be ranked in?
I think he's probably going to be high end wide receiver 2 to mid range wide receiver 2 type of numbers from a fantasy points per game perspective. When it comes to where he should be ranked in, I think we should be looking at Rashee Rice similar to how we view guys like Ladd McConkey, T. Higgins, those types of players. I think that's kind of the range that I would view him in. Yeah, I mean, that's kind of where I have him at as a high end wide receiver 2. I think Worthy is going to be a piece in this offense that's definitely going to. I like the back half of the year for Worthy. I didn't like the first half of the year. I like the back half of the year. Shows me a lot. Actually, somewhat reminiscent of what Rice did as a rookie, because Rice didn't have a great first half of the year, but he had a really good back half of the year. And then Worthy kind of did the same thing. So, yeah, I think high end wide receiver 2. If I'm valuing him, from a numeric standpoint, like I said, I have him as my wide receiver 16 in my rankings. I think he could finish anywhere next year between wide receiver 12 and probably wide receiver 20. That's kind of where I'm going to put him at.
The only argument I have in anything you said is that Ladd McConkey is definitely in a higher tier.
I would have him in a tier higher, but
yeah, I think Ladd is a 1.
I think from like when you're looking at a ranking standpoint numerically, I would say McConkey would probably be like 13, 14 type of range, and I have Rice at 16. So they're close, but there's a tier break probably.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, that's all I'm saying. But we can move on to the next one. I think this is the last trade of the day. A 10-team league. It's super flex, full PPR, and tight end premium. You're going to be getting Bijan Robinson, Brandon Ayuk, and Cortland Sutton. You're giving up Drake London, Bucky Irving, Khalil Shakir, a 26 first-round pick, and Tony Pollard. So How are you looking at this type of deal?
I'm looking at it hard, man. I'm taking team two side. I'm taking team two side, man. I understand Bijan's there, Brandon Ayuk. We don't know what Brandon Ayuk is gonna be at this point. Tony Pollard, I don't want to say he's nothing, but here's the thing, man. I think Khalil Shakir is an important piece on here. I think me personally, I can't in good conscience right now say, oh yeah, man, I'm taking Ayuk 7 days a week on twice on Sunday over Khalil Shakir. I mean, I think those guys are pretty close. And Khalil Shakir, they both have the contract now. They both have the contract. Khalil Shakir has the health standpoint. So now I'm taking both of those two pieces off the board. I don't know if you agree with me in terms of if those guys are equal or not, but that's
I
how
don't.
I'm looking at it. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
So
I don't.
let's take Khalil Shakir and the 26 first then, and just get Ayuk out of there. So then we're talking about. I
I
mean,
don't know
this
if I,
trade is
I I don't know if I agree with that either. I think we're really discounting Ayuk.
really
Yeah, man. I mean, this is a guy that I viewed in my rankings last year before the injury as like a top 15 wide receiver. And maybe I was high on Brandon Ayuk. I probably was high on Brandon Ayuk, but I still think this is a player who long term, he has the contract. I think Deebo Samuel gets kind of moved on from in San Francisco. Ricky Pearsall would step into that wide receiver 2 role, but Brandon Ayuk, even though he's going to be coming back from an injury and that is probably going to halt the production of Ayuk early in the year next year, I still think he's a low end wide receiver 1, high end wide receiver 2 type of player when he's healthy with the Niners. And so I would be viewing Ayuk it would probably have to be Shakir the first and Pollard probably all together to go get Ayuk for me.
Andrew. Ayuk
But
was
his
so
value is
bad.
not there. His value is not there right now. You can buy him cheaper. I'm not disagreeing with you on the fact that he is cheaper in value. I'm saying what I think he is as a producer when he's healthy.
My thing is that he was healthy at one point. And I know we could say he, sat out of training camp, things like that. But the guy had weeks where he got 10 targets and still came away with 9 points. And that was before the
Fair,
injury. That was before the
fair.
injury. Then week 5, he had a top 10 week, scored 22 points on 12 targets, 8 receptions. And then he laid an egg again the next week. And then the week after that, he gets injured. So, I mean, if we're looking at he sat out for the off season, came back, was trash, got injured, so now he's going to have probably a trash off season, a trash season to start next season. I just don't know, man. But like you said, the
I
value
just
isn't there. He might
I
be a
just
guy
don't
to
see
buy
a
low
big
on.
difference. I don't see a big difference in a guy like George Pickens and Brandon Ayuk. I don't see a big difference in a guy like DJ Moore and
Hey,
Brandon Ayuk or Terry McLaurin and
whoa,
Brandon Ayuk. Like I don't see a big difference between those players when it comes to production. Obviously, the range of outcomes for all of those guys was different last year. Terry McLaurin, best season of his career. DJ Moore, down year. George Pickens doing what he does, where he's floating around a wide receiver 2 spot. The production is different, but when I'm looking at those assets on my roster, I just don't view them that differently. It's going to be a different range of outcomes every single year when it comes to what they produce, but I think all of those guys are somewhat similar. So I think, long story short, where we're disagreeing at the start of this is that the Brandon Ayuk evaluation. I think I'm more so concerned about when you're looking at Bijan Robinson in this deal and Drake London, because to me those are the two pieces that are like the big ones.
yeah.
What do you need on top of Drake London to get Bijan Robinson, or are you valuing those guys equal right now?
So it's like, what you mean? What I got to give up on? If I got Drake London, somebody say, "Hey man, you want Bijan Robinson?" I'm like, "Okay, we doing this straight up or what?"
So you
Because
think it's straight across?
I ain't giving up much. Till I see who on this list would I give up with Drake London? Maybe Pollard,
Shakir,
maybe Shakir. If I want to
the
feel
first.
generous, I'm not giving up the first or Bucky Irvin on top of Drake London for. Look, I just had a deal. I'm not gonna say I just offered a deal. Somebody wanted Marvin Harrison Jr. for me, and I basically was like, "Look, man, you give me Marvin Harrison Jr. I'll give you Marvin Harrison Jr. and Achan for Bijan and Roma Dunze." That's what I said. I said I'll do that. And they were like, no, no, no. Bijan is worth this. The person talking about is Brandon. He's like, no, Bijan, yada yada yada. And I'm just like, bro, you know my philosophy on running backs. I'll trade a really really good receiver. I'll keep a really really good receiver over a great running back. Bijan's a great running back. I learned from Todd Gurley. You don't know when it's going. You don't know when that shit going in. So I'm
Yeah,
not
I mean,
Drake for Bijan straight up. That's what I'm doing, man.
I think I agree with you. There's more value on the package side. When I'm looking at this, really, like, if I'm gonna break this down as quickly and as simply as I possibly can do it, I would say I think Pollard and Sutton can probably cross each other out. I think they're close enough in value. I'm close. I prefer Sutton, but I think we can cross them out. So that leaves me with Ayuk and Bijan for London, Shakir, Bucky Irving at 26 first. If I were to really put them together, I would say I think Bucky the first and probably Shakir maybe get me Bijan. But if you want to make it even simpler, I'd say we could say like London and Shakir give me Bijan if we want to do that. So we can cross those off, which leaves me with Brandon Ayuk for Bucky Irving in a first. And I'll take Bucky Irving in the first over Brandon Ayuk. So that's the way that I would break it down. I would go Sutton for Pollard, cross those out, Bijan for London and Shakir, and then that crosses that out, and then it would be Brandon Ayuk for Bucky in the first.
That sounds about right.
And I think that you could argue on the first cross out, you like the Sutton side. On the second cross out, you probably like London and Shakir over Bijan, but it's probably close enough that maybe you take Bijan. It's probably fair either way. And then the other one is just, I think it's kind of lopsided. I think you probably should have been able to get this deal done without throwing in the first round pick. Is that fair to say?
I would think so. So you're talking about Ayuk for Bucky Irving straight up?
Is probably what it would have come down to, but you probably still prefer Bucky from a value standpoint, but it feels like the overpay of this maybe was the first round pick. Like that's where the overpay is.
Yeah, I can see that.
And I think you and I are probably just higher on Shakir than other people are, just being honest.
Yeah, he's like the Trevor Lawrence of wide receivers.
I don't even like Trevor like that. Y'all are just making me like Trevor Lawrence because his value's low, but whatever, man. So we're gonna go with the Bucky, the first, the London, the Pollard, the Shakir side. And it's probably because of the first round pick being thrown in. I don't think you needed to throw the first round pick in. But again, it's going to come down to roster construction and things like that for if this made sense for your team. And 10-team league, maybe you have a better team and depth already, so you could just upgrade into those superstars like Bijan. But I think this deal, you're going to win or lose this deal depending on how Brandon Ayuk bounces back.
Yes, absolutely.
So, all right, well, that one's it. That is it for the trades. That is 10 Dynasty trades that you guys made last week. A lot of tear downs. People are tearing down right now, getting some extra capital. Sounds like War is not a fan of the tear down. He wants you guys to tier up. I don't mind some of them. Overall, I think there was some good trades. There were some trades that I probably didn't agree with the value back. And my takeaway from this episode really is that I need to go try and buy Trevor Lawrence low because apparently War hates him. Apparently the fantasy football community hates him. And I can just go get Jordan Addison thrown into a Trevor Lawrence deal pretty easily is what I'm seeing. So let me go see what I can do in my trade. Y'all are inspiring my trades. War, any takeaways today from, I know you like doing the trade shows and you like, coming away and going to try and make a move in your leagues. Is there anything that made you think I'm going to go try that?
I'll be completely transparent with you. Shit, I started thinking about trading for Trevor Lawrence. To be honest, like, I didn't realize, like, let me just be fully transparent with you guys. Sometimes I get too far over my skis and I'll make horrible trades based on stuff I think is going to happen. Like I traded Lamar Jackson for Trevor Lawrence.
Brother.
I did. Yeah, but that was at a time period where it was sketchy. Lamar was like, I thought it was sketchy, like with his health. But then I turned around and I was desperate to win a championship because all my wide receivers got injured and traded Trevor Lawrence for Jayden Reed during a time where Jayden Reed was like popping off every week. That was a bad trade. So my Trevor, but now looking at it, I feel like I have gotten smarter since then. So yeah. My takeaway is probably, Andrew's probably right. You probably should try to go get Trevor Lawrence if your league mates are sleeping on him that hard, because there's just some guys that Trevor Lawrence is better than, man.
You ever go try and make a trade and you're like, oh, I want to go trade for this player, and then you go look in your leagues and you see the one manager in your league has that guy that probably will not sell him low to you at all. You ever do that?
You every week, every single week, I get an idea watching these shows, and I say, "Let me go see it." Then I say, "Oh, shit, he's on Andrew's team."
God damn it! No, I just did that with Trevor Lawrence and Bdge. Bdge is never gonna sell me a guy low, and he has Trevor Lawrence. He's not gonna do the Brock Purdy for Trevor Lawrence plus a piece. He's not gonna do that. So I'll still shoot something over there, but I'm expecting a swift decline today. But hey, look, that's it, guys. If you did enjoy today's video, hit the like button. Best free way to show the channel some support. Look, we want to do more and more trade shows. So as you guys keep getting these trades done in your leagues, go into that free Discord. There is a free Discord linked in the description. Submit those trades. The more trades we get, like we did this week, if there's so many of them that we're like, hey, we're comfortable to do a trade show this week, it may be something that we start doing once a week. If it gets to that point. So make sure you keep submitting all those trades. We love doing these shows. These shows are fun. They're easy to talk about. And it's just a good way to kind of keep building this community here at the League FFB. So those things, if you like them, you want to submit some trades, go submit them in the Discord. Also, while you're down there, please do me the favor, hit the subscribe button. The subscribe button, if it's not clicked for you, we're trying to get that subscriber count to 5,000 subscribers by the NFL draft. I think we can do it. War, where can they find you at? You're making some additional content right now, and you said you told me last week you need to work on the plug. Have you reformatted the plug here?
No, not really. So I'm just gonna ask you guys. To just follow us over on Crimson Mask Pro Wrestling. You could actually search up Crimson Mask Pro Wrestling or the Crimson Mask Show. You could find us and subscribe to one or both of those channels whenever you guys get. We truly appreciate every single subscriber we get. With pro wrestling content, we're dropping every single week. Crimson Mask Pro Wrestling. Let's go.
Hell yeah. You guys go subscribe to him, subscribe to us, like the video, join the Discord, do all that stuff. We'll see you guys on the next episode. Nothing else for you today, so we will see you there. Until then, peace out.